All right, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, and welcome to our weekly 30-minute webinar. My name is Brian McKay, Systems Engineer here at Variphy, and I'll be your host for today's session where we are going to be talking about our newest release, version 15.2, which I understand will be dropping tomorrow on our website. We just had an internal overview of this yesterday, and there are a lot of great new features coming our way with this release, so a lot of exciting stuff to talk about today. Here to walk us through all the bells and whistles, we have Victor Verba, our support team leader and one of our Jedi Master level systems engineers here at Verify. How you doing today, Vic?
Good, thanks, Brian. How are you, man?
Pretty good, pretty good. There was some good stuff yesterday in that demo we had, so I'm looking forward to people getting to learn about this today. Please note that these webinars are always recorded and posted within 24 hours, so you can review them at any time. Check out verify.com/company/webinars for all of our past and upcoming sessions. All right, let's roll this to the next one. Let's start off with a quick overview of our company and what we do. Then we'll jump into a live demo where Vic's going to guide us through the new features in 15.2. We'll pause for a Q&A session. During the demo, if you have any questions, please make sure to ask them in the Q&A panel at the bottom right of the screen, and they will be answered after the presentation is completed. After Q&A, we'll reward one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card, so hang around to see if you won. Quick overview of Verify. Verify is the preferred analytics and management solution for Cisco and Zoom collaboration. Deployable either on-prem or as a hosted cloud solution, we provide industry-leading call reporting and analytics, as well as customizable dashboards and widgets, UCCX reporting, remote phone control, change management, Cisco Cube CDR, and our latest additions, Zoom and Webex call reporting. If you have questions on any of our features, please contact us at support@verify.com or reach out to your account manager. All right, and one more thing before we kick this off. For an additional fee, Verify offers an enhanced consulting service to our customers. Verify's SE team engages with you on a one-on-one basis to remotely provide additional consulting, report building, dashboard configuration, and system monitoring assistance. This is a service that provides you with a dedicated Verify SE to do the heavy lifting, giving you a stress-free, hands-off experience. For more information, please contact us or your account manager, and we'll be glad to speak more in depth about pricing and terms of service for our Enhanced Consulting Services, or ECS. All right, with that, let's go ahead and get into the wild. I'm going to hand things off to Vic now. Please remember to type any questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. Let me make you presenter, Victor.
Well, I think I already stole it.
Oh, you did. All right. Even better.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us again. As Brian had said, this version 15.2 is expected to release tomorrow. I expect that usually later in the afternoon, so keep an eye out for that. You can always find that on our download pages at verify.com. So to get started, I'm going to look at some of the call manager changes that we're making regarding our call manager platform. One of the changes that we're making here is support for UCM 11.5 for the real-time hunt group agent activity widget. Released in 15.1, we supported version call manager 12 and up. So with this new 15.2, we are supporting call manager version 11.5 and up. So that is new. So if you're running 11.5, you now have access to the real-time hunt group agent activity widget. And if you guys are not using that, you have supervisors or managers looking at their hunt groups, this is an absolutely fantastic widget to kind of let your managers and supervisors know how many folks are actually logged into your hunt groups versus logged out of your hunt groups. Going to talk another little about another change that we made to this particular widget right here. Essentially, one of the things that we were doing in 15.1 is, well, let me show you 15.1. So this right here is the exact same widget. One of the things that you're going to notice here is my buddy Dan, who is logged out of 3 different phones. The view that I'm looking at here for this particular widget is a user-based view, which is why we have Dan in this view. However, he does have 3 different phones with his hunt group, and he is logged out on all 3 of those phones. So previously in 15.1, it was a little bit misleading because we would show Dan logged out of all 3 of these phones, and we would show him multiple times within the widget. However, the good thing is Dan is only counted once as a logged out user. So even though the counts were only showing 3, the actual information or each of the rows was showing Dan 3 separate times. We did make a change by some requests from some of our customers to go ahead and roll Dan up. Seeing as Dan is really looking at the user level, Dan is completely logged out. So we show him just once rather than duplicating him multiple times for his device. Now, if you are running a device-based widget, which I thought I had here, but I don't, Dan is going to show 3 different times because it is a device-based widget and he is logged out of 3 different devices. But when we are looking at Dan from a user perspective, we want to see that one Dan is logged out, and that's what one of the changes we made with 15.2. So makes the widget look much, much cleaner. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and jump over to is the call analytics portion. In 15.1, we released our call scenario reporting. And that's the ability to report specific scenarios that Variphy has. Things like, I just want to see abandoned calls or answered calls, or I want to see abandoned and answered calls only. That's been available in 15.1. In 15.2, we did allow you to isolate things like only want to see authenticated calls, not secured calls, and or secured calls, or just maybe I just want to see the non-secured calls. So with Variphy 15.2, you're going to have the ability to isolate just the particular calling scenarios. Again, we have had the ability to use scenarios. We just did not have the secured versus non-secured scenario types listed within the actual dropdown. Right, so that is something new to 15.2. So if you are looking to isolate just non-secured calls, you do have that ability now. It makes it much easier to be able to go ahead and find those calls. All right. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about and switch gears off of Call Manager for a second here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Webex. Something that we did add for our Webex customers is alerting. So in 15.1, we do have Webex Calling, but we did not have the ability to alert based on specific call types. So if you're familiar with our Call Manager alerting, you can alert for things like 911 calls, suspicious calls like toll fraud calls or international calls. And this is call-based alerting or data-based alerting. So if, for example, I want to create an alert for anybody that dials 911, I can now do that within the Variphy system and get an email indicating that a 911 call took place and who the call went from and how long it was and things like that. You could also add things like I want to be able to isolate certain numbers or certain phone numbers. If I want to know anytime an international call goes out, I can go ahead and isolate just international calls. So the point here is with our Webex customers, CDR alerts are now available. So that was a great addition to our already popular Webex reporting applications. Continuing with Webex analytics and reporting, we showed a little bit a moment ago of call scenarios and call scenario reporting within the call manager. With 15.2, we also added call scenarios into Webex analytics. We realized the power behind that and really being able to isolate certain calls and certain types of call legs, especially when we look at a lot of hunt groups and we want to just see the answered calls and maybe the calls that go to voicemail and things like that. So with 15.2, we've also added call scenarios for Webex. So if you are one of our existing Webex customers, 15.2 will give you this, giving you the ability to isolate any of the existing call scenarios. For example, if I only want to see the call scenarios for answered type calls, it helps if I use some time frame that actually has some data for me here. Let's go ahead and switch this a little bit to June. I know I have some good test data in here for June. And now what we're doing is we are isolating just the calling scenarios. There's a lot of value in this to be able to isolate certain calls and where they're going to, especially using combination searches. This brings me to my next new addition here for our Webex calling. That is improved visibility into your voicemail when call goes to a hunt group or a call queue. All right. So we've had a lot of folks come to us for hunt group analytics and call queue analytics and being able to schedule those reports using the Webex platform and retain that data for longer time periods. With that, we've recently added in 15.2 the ability to isolate the calls to voicemail for Webex. So just to kind of show you a example here, I'm going to pick on a hunt group, and we've got our test hunt group here. And I'm going to use a combination here. I'm going to use our call scenarios and our voicemail to isolate anything that was answered or went to voicemail. Now, in this particular case, these are a lot of test calls. I don't expect to have a lot of answered calls, but I do expect to have some voicemail calls. So now what we're doing is isolating also the calls that went to voicemail. And I'm going to expand on this a little bit and remove that so we can see some other call legs here. Now we can see I've got a total of 10 calls. Once I export this, I'm going to add my sequence count in here so I can see how many sequences those 10 calls add up to. And I'm also going to add my answer count in here and just add our voicemail count in here because that's what we are after. So now what we're doing is just better isolating those voicemail calls as they go through your call queue. So let me run that report. And now, as opposed to 15.1, we are going to see some total voicemail counts in here. Now, what we're isolating are just the calls that went to my hunt group and how many of those calls ended up not being answered in my hunt group and going to voicemail. So taking a look at some of this data, what we're doing here is isolating those calls that are going to your voicemail. So we can see that this one was sent to voicemail. It is true. It is a voicemail retrieval. This is something going towards our total call count of 4. So one, again, improving some of those call queue analytics, improving some of those hunt group analytics to help you guys get a better understanding of how many of those calls were answered, how many of those calls were went to voicemail. And in an upcoming release, we're also going to be adding how many of those calls are actually abandoned. So much like you're used to in some of our call manager analytics, you're going to get a lot of that same type of sequencing through our Webex analytics to be able to develop really meaningful metrics of how your calls are being handled through your Webex hunt groups or your call queues. All right, so that is a new addition to Variphy 15.2, which brings me over to the next one with also regarding voicemails. Not only do we have the call scenario that we just talked about for voicemail, new in 15.2, as we can see, we've got voicemail in there. That was the one we were just kind of showing. We also allow you to easily search on the different types of voicemail options you have within Webex. We understand that Webex can be complicated. There are different types of voicemail and different types of voicemail groups. So what we've allowing you to do now is also filter specifically on certain types of voicemail groups or voicemail portals by utilizing our Webex API and querying for the certain values that we have. And I'm just going to pick all of these guys here because I don't remember which ones are being used. So now what we're doing is searching for just a particular voicemail group so we can see all calls that go to a particular voicemail group. So you are using call queues, you are using voicemail groups. A lot of times you're going to want to see, hey, how many calls went into that voicemail group today? Maybe company-wide, maybe organization-wide, maybe you have different hunt groups or different call queues going to the same voicemail group. Now you can isolate very easily across all your organization how many of those calls went to a certain voicemail group. So again, new to Variphy 15.2, improving that searchability, improving those summary metrics, and making it even easier for you to pull out very meaningful metrics of how some of those call groups or those voicemail groups or those voicemail portals are being used. So the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk a little bit about some improvements to our Zoom analytics. So let me switch gears over here and change over to our Zoom cluster. And I think I want to use this guy. All right. And with this one, we are going to go ahead and look a little bit at common area phones. So there's a lot of different ways that you can have a common area phone in Zoom Analytics. This is for all of our Zoom customers out there. A common area phone is a phone that does not belong to one particular user. So think phone that doesn't have a user. Same thing from a Webex perspective or a call manager perspective. It could be an operator phone or a front desk phone where you have various operators or front desk managers that sit down at that desk. That particular phone does not belong to a person. Or if you think about a retail location where they have phones in different areas of the retail store. We've all been walking through a Target or some store and there's a phone sitting on the side of a post somewhere. That's a common phone. It's not belonging to one particular phone. It's not Brian's phone or Victor's phone. That's a common area phone that can be picked up and dialed for different departments and things like that. With Zoom and Variphy 15.2, you now have the ability to report those common area phones. So let me change gears here a little bit and run a report for this month. Helps if I add the search. The drop down here is getting derived through our access and our API with Zoom. We're going to be able to provide you a list of all of your common area phones. And you can simply choose one or choose multiple and search the criteria, and you will be able to see all the calls to or from the common area phones that you picked. This is new to Verify 15.2, where we did not have a lot of visibility into those common area phones. But now what you're going to be able to do is, one, choose them from a pick list, build reports on specific common area phones, but also do some grouping on those common area phones. One of the big things we see with these types of phones, or these phones that don't belong to users, is people asking for their usage. So running a report across your organization and then grouping that based off of common area phone usage is a great way to be able to see that. Now, again, I only have the one common area phone in here, but you'll get the idea. If I group my report based on common or caller or called common area, I'm going to be able to get total counts. I can then also decide what I want to see, how I want to sort those. Let's say lowest to highest if I'm looking for my common area phones that have the least amount of volume, or maybe I want to see which ones have the highest amount of volume. Maybe I only want to isolate ones that have more than one call or 5 calls. You could do that as well using our standard filtering. So just to give you an idea of what we've got here is using that filtering to go ahead and break down those common areas. And again, I only have the one common area, so we only see the one. Now, going beyond just reporting organization-wide for common area phones, you can also use our secondary filters on these reports to break down sites and common area phones. So let's say, for example, I'm using Webex and I have different locations, and each one of my locations has their own set of common area phones, but I want to know across my organization which location and the common area phones. You can also break that down by using the, look, I choose location, I meant to choose site, and then choosing your called or common area devices. This will go ahead and then give me a breakdown of both my locations as well as the common area devices that fit within those locations and the call volume. So huge advance here to be able to go ahead and isolate that a little bit. Now, again, I really only have the one, so I don't have a huge example of common area devices within my organization, but this is going to give you a breakdown of all of your different sites as well as all the common area phones within your sites, your total volume usage of how those are being used. So huge benefit for our Zoom users to be able to get those analytics, and we see a lot of people using those to make decisions on how they want to keep their common area phones and if some of those phones are even necessary. The next thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about are some other changes more system-wide. This is not necessarily platform specific, but more looking at system changes. Now, one of the things that we have here, and let me switch gears a little bit and let's build a report. I'm going to go ahead and we'll use a call manager report here, and let's build something out. Let's say, for example, I'm building a report and I add a bunch of telephone numbers into it or a bunch of extensions. So I'm going to add 77210. I'll add this guy. I'll add this guy, and let's see. I'll go 77128. and 77125. All right. And now I'm going to add some other filters in here. So in other words, maybe we're building out a complex report. And let's go ahead and add our call scenarios in here. Now, all of these numbers that I'm querying, I really only want to see the abandoned calls, maybe the answered calls, and maybe all the calls that went to voicemail. But you know what? I'm going to add another filter in here, and let's filter on duration. I only want to see these calls if the duration is above, we'll say 5 seconds. We'll say greater than 5 seconds. So I'm building out this complex report. Now, I like this. I may want to use this report for different purposes. Maybe I want to create something that's monthly and something that's weekly and something that's daily that has different breakdowns within my report for each one of those categories. In Verify 15.1 and below, you had to kind of recreate these patterns. The nice thing about with Verify 15.2 is I no longer have to recreate those patterns. I can leverage what we're calling a private search set, which is this. This is a private search set. It belongs to one particular report. But now what I can do is I can easily make this public without having to recreate it. So I'm going to name my search, and I'll call it Victor's Large Search. All right, so it's got all this criteria in here. I want to be able to use this multiple times in multiple different reports. I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel and retype all this information. Now what you're going to notice is this guy right here. This guy is going to give me the ability to save this. All right, so now what I have is I have my search built in automatically. You'll notice there's Victor's large search. So I no longer need to build that search. What I can do is just scoot it over, run it, and now I have that search automatically in my report. Now we're going to see what kind of damage I did with that particular search here, and if I brought anything back. I did. I brought some back. I could see 339 calls, and here's the detail of those calls. All right. But the nice thing is now this search is saved. If I like this search, I want to use it, I want to rebuild a report with it. When I go to my reports, you'll see under search sets, I have my public search sets. Now I can just take that large search and start building out my report for my daily, weekly, or monthly metrics or anything like that. Now, how does that function? Now, we've always had something called public search sets. This is the ability to go ahead and build a search that is available to be used by other people. So let's say, for example, I have a group of 10 or 15 phone numbers. I don't want to build that report multiple times for different people, but I want different people to have access to that search because it may be important to them. Well, that's where public search sets came in. You could build that search, add all your telephone numbers and your fund criteria, save it, and then somebody could just use these on a report just by moving it from left to right. Now what we're doing is giving you the ability to take your existing reports and automatically just make those a public search set. And Victor's public search. So if this was an existing report, I like this criteria, I want other people to be able to have access to this search, I can just simply save it, and now it's saved. It's automatically a public search set, and there's Victor's public search set. And now people can use that in different reports. So it's, again, a very easy use case to be able to take what you've got, make it available for other people to be able to use. And this type of criteria is really just building for some future changes that we've got going on. Stay tuned for more updates on our next version that's going to be coming out, we expect in November, where we're going to have some huge changes in there that's going to take advantage of some of this logic and also offer some really, really cool new features. I'm not going to get into it because I don't want to give too much away. So, but stay tuned for that information. All right. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and talk about quickly are some other adjustments we made here. Let me close out the report here. And going back, you know what, I'm going to go back to, let's go ahead and change our dashboard here. We'll go to our CUCM analytics. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is if you had a lot of data in your widgets previously in version 15.1 or below, you lost your headers. In other words, when I scroll down here, I couldn't see my headers. They're gone. So if you had a lot of data in here, sometimes you were going across, and you may mix up some of your volumes. In other words, if I was looking at this thinking it was abandoned calls, well, I got a problem. But that's answered calls. So in 15.2. headers now freeze. So again, visually, not a huge change, but an awesome change to be able to make our widgets just one more bit easier to go ahead and navigate and read, especially if you have a lot of data fields within your, or a lot of rows within your widget. Keeping with the idea of widget changes and updates, in version 15.1, we gave you the ability to modify your columns, the size of your columns. However, we had a lot of customers load up 15.1. They said, you know what, I want to go a little bit smaller. I don't need to respect this. I know that I'm never going to go more than 3 digits. So in 15.2, again, we listen to you, quick change. In Verify 15.2, you have the ability to go ahead and just shoot yourself in the foot if you want to and squish your widgets down to as small as you want. So if you want to cut that value down a little bit, you can. And now you can see I went and changed my value. So in 15.2, we're giving you even more ability to go ahead and just really resize and recater some of these widgets to be able to shrink them down, get more into your screen, and just provide a better user experience to really, do I need all this space over here? Probably not. And my terminating call count, is it ever going to be above 100 if this is a daily widget or a weekly widget? Probably not. So we're giving you the ability to go ahead and just squish that guy down to whatever your value wants. And then don't forget, you also already have the ability to change the names of any of these columns using our already existing code. So if you said, hey, I wanted to change terminating this down to whatever, just terminating count, you can go ahead and do that by using any of our custom labels. That feature has been out there for a while, so you do have a lot of flexibility to go ahead and change those column headers, shrink them down, let them fit your widgets a little bit more. All right. And last but not least, you're going to notice this guy right up at the top of my screen here. Prior to Verify 15.2, if you exceeded your license count on any of our platforms, let's say you were a Zoom user and you were licensed for 120 Zoom licenses or Zoom users, and you went to 121, Verify system would be extremely restricted. You would not be able to come in and run reports or access the application to be able to generate reports. Same thing goes with our call manager or our Webex. If you exceeded your license, the Verify system would automatically go restricted because you are outside of your license. This would cause you to go ahead and generate an email to our success team. And you know what? Hands down to our success team. They are awesome. They are easily turning those keys around in just a matter of a few minutes, even on weekends. But we know that can be cumbersome because it does cause the system to be restricted. It will cause reports to not run if they were automated. We recognize this. We understand that it caused a lot of problems with customers, as well as it made a lot of cleanup. You know, if you exceeded your count around the first of the month and you had 50 monthly reports that were supposed to go out that didn't, somebody's got to go re-kick off those reports. Oh, in comes Verify 15.2, where we are going to give you a 14-day grace period to get within license. So what that means is if you see this banner over here, it is going to go ahead and let you know that you are outside a license. It is also going to give you the ability to generate an email and send you an email saying, hey, you have exceeded your license for the particular platform. If you've exceeded it on 2 platforms, you will receive 2 emails, 1 for each platform. It is also going to let you know when your grace period is scheduled to end. So you will need to either remove users from your system, remove devices from your call manager, depending on how you're licensed by this date. Otherwise, the system will get restricted. All right. So the nice thing here is we are giving you some buffer to get back within license. Now, if you feel you're not going to be able to remove anything, all of the changes that you made in your call manager cluster or your Zoom or your Webex are legitimate changes, then in that case, you're going to email customer support or customer success as you normally would, send them your Verify license report, and they'll go ahead and talk to you about getting the additional license. So we are giving you that 14-day grace period. Now, the other thing that you're going to have the option to go ahead and do is when I move over to my licensing notifications right here, you already have the ability to email when your license is expiring. So this will send you an email that has been out for several versions. You're also going to notice this license overage email alert. Right now, you will be able to go ahead and pick the user that's going to receive this. And you also have the ability to allow Verify to be notified automatically. So I had talked a little bit about the process. You know, if, for example, you are going over your license, you can either get within license or you have to reach out to your customer success manager. They will request a Verify license report. You'll send that report over to them. They'll go ahead and send you a key with a new license, and on you go. By doing this, what this is going to go ahead and do is 6 days after your license is expired. So, or I'm sorry, not expired, if you have exceeded it. If after 6 days you have not resolved the problem, by having this option enabled, it will send an email to the customer success manager automatically along with a verified license report. So that way your customer success manager automatically has that information and can start generating a license for you. Again, this is the same verified license report that you are used to sending now. It's just going to automate that process, save you guys a couple steps, save us a couple steps because we'll already have the information. All you really need to do is just say, hey, yeah, we're over. Verify will have that report. Or after 6 days, our customer success team may reach out and say, hey, we noticed that you guys are coming close to this. You know, is this going to be a problem? You guys think we'll get over or back under license by the X date? Or do we need to increase that license now? Again, trying to help eliminate that restricted Verify system for you. All right. And with that, Brian, I know we are at the top here. So any questions for us?
Yeah, we did have a few. Let's see. First one, it says, I opened a ticket with the real-time hunt pilot, maybe, given that they don't identify EMPs logged into phones registered. I'm not sure. I guess it's asking if that's going to be resolved in 15.2. I'm not really sure I understand the question, to be honest, but
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the question. I don't have anything regarding phones registered or not registered changes in 15.2 that I could think of off the top of my head. If you want to go ahead and email us, or if, we can reach back out to you, Brian, if you make sure we get that name, we can reach back out and kind of let you know, where we stand on that particular issue or
yeah.
what release we expect it to be in.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll follow up on that ticket and get back to you on that one.
Okay.
Okay, next question was, will SSO with permalinks be resolved in 15.2?
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah, we
that
just
will be
talked about that
resolved in
yesterday.
15.2. So yeah, we learned that yesterday. And again, in the interest of time, guys, I don't have time to go through every single little change within 15.2. There are quite a bit. That's why we urge everybody to get 15.2 up and running. If you are looking to understand just about everything that took place in 15.2 beyond some of the high level things, you can always log into our website, and under our support section, you're going to see the option to see product release information, and you'll be able to see all of the individual changes that took place in 15.2.
Awesome.
Yeah,
There was one. Oh, sorry. A couple other questions. Is there a notification before the maximum cap?
before the maximum cap, there is not. Once we reach that maximum, then we will know and give you the 14-day grace period, but we don't currently have a buffer threshold put into it at this point in time. It is something that we are toying with in the future, but that's why one of the reasons we came out with this is to prevent you from going down, prevent you from being restricted, but also give you 14 days to get within that release.
Okay,
I'll say
excellent.
not at this time.
Gotcha. Oh, and there was one more follow-up about the first question. So EMP extension mobility profile, I guess is what they were referring to.
Gotcha. Yes. Okay. Extension mobility profile is not in this release, but it is something that we are actively working on.
Okay. All right. I think that is everything. Okay. Let's go ahead and I'll go ahead and pull it back to me. Great presentation as always, Vic. A lot of good information there. Fantastic. All right, let me make myself the presenter and try to find my control panel. Let's see. Okay, where is my share option? There we go. Share. There we go. Likes to hide from me every time. Okay, there we go. We're back. Okay, so we've addressed Q&A. Let's go ahead and move on. Now is the part of the presentation you've all been earnestly waiting for, I'm sure, to find out who the winner of the $50 gift card is. And this week it is, congratulations to Nancy Kleiner. You're the winner. Your account manager will be reaching out to you soon with your gift. Again, congratulations. So I think that'll about wrap it up for today. Thanks again to everybody who attended. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Our next session will be on September 20, where John and Mike will be discussing Webex voicemail tracking through call queues and hunt groups. So be sure to register for that. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks all.